So we have a very special guest with us here. We have Sean Perry, who is the founder of We Are Hope. Sean, how are you doing?
I'm doing great, Josh. Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. And explain to people what We Are Hope is.
So We Are Hope is a nonprofit organization that supports youth mental health in schools. We utilize a coaching model that couples cognitive behavioral therapy techniques, emotional CPR, and a neuroscience-based mental health educational platform. And we support students 5 days a week for half an hour every single day.
Wow. Okay. And you guys have been around. You guys started back pre-COVID. You started back in 2017.
Yeah, 2017, the idea came out to do something that was different than the norm. What I realized was that we were supporting kids where my business partner and I, James Reinstein, we were working in a private mental health care field, and we were supporting the top 1%. It costs families about $90,000 to send their kids there for 90 days for residential, which is just astronomical. And so what I started doing was looking around and realizing that, so if we're helping the top 1%, what's happening to all of the other kids, right? So I took what I believe to be the core foundation out of residential, which was that support, that consistency and support every day. And I said, there's got to be a way that we can implement that into the public school system or into the school system in general. And so I developed a modality that goes into the schools and actually supports all kids regardless of income rather than just those that have financial resources.
And We Are Hope actually is an acronym of something, right?
Yeah, it stands for We Are Helping Other People Every Day.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. Which a lot of people don't ask us about. They just say We Are Hope, and they'll never really ask me about, like, what does that mean? And every once in a while I get somebody to ask, and they'll go, oh, that's really great. I was like, yeah, I know, but we never use it.
Yeah, we never use it. And how have you seen changes in the environment post-COVID with youth mental health?
So when we started, I'll say we weren't the first, but we were one of the few to utilize a virtual model. So we coached kids, up and down the East Coast and across the world. Actually, we had some kids in London that we supported, or in the UK, and we were utilizing virtual supports. And what we've seen shift is that obviously kids, we still use our virtual model. What we've seen shift is that kiddos continue to need help, but they need more support now more than ever. And so when we look at pre-COVID, kiddos wanted the support, but they were a little bit reluctant. And now what we see is communities around the world, and particularly the US, because that's our main focus, they have the language now to say, like, I need support, right? They're actually, we have kids in schools that are asking to come see us. And I think that's a societal shift where kids are starting to become aware. But what we're also seeing is that they still don't want to go to a therapist, right? And so utilizing the coach really opens up the door for them to at least get support, and then eventually they will feel comfortable enough to go to a therapist and work on some of that deeper rooted stuff that they have going on.
And we're talking Sean Perry, who is the founder of We Are Hope, which is a internationally recognized and known and locally based nonprofit right here in our neck of the woods that works with youth mental health. So what do you see next steps happening with We Are Hope?
Oh, goodness. There's next steps. There's a lot in the works for We Are Hope. I don't even. That's a hard question, but a fun one in the same breath. So I've written 4 books. One on anxiety for parents, one on ADHD for parents, one on autism spectrum for parents, and then one on 504 and IEP for parents. And I have 5 other books in the works, right? So that's one thing. And you asked about We Are Hope, but everything I do is geared towards We Are Hope. So even though I wrote them, it's all for We Are Hope, right? Yeah. My entire life is about the mission of the work. I can't separate the two at this point. But we are working on, I don't want to announce specifically with whom, but we are working on a pretty significant partnership with a pretty well-known organization that's national.
Okay.
And hoping that we can run a pilot with them and create a really significant partnership.
Right.
We're continuing to look to grow just in general, right? We've got few school districts here in the state of Vermont, some schools in a school in Pennsylvania. We're looking to continue to expand. I'd like to be in every school here in the state of Vermont. Right. It all takes the superintendents and the principals to agree and to see the kind of work that we're doing. I think our data speaks for itself. We have roughly about a 50% reduction in anxiety in 90 days with our kids, the kids that we support. And if anybody can find better data, I'd love to see it. I haven't seen it. I've looked. I've looked hard. We have some pretty amazing stuff that we're able to do. But I think overall what's next is continued growth. Right? Like that's the key. And early on I was asked, where do you see We Are Hope in X amount of years, right? That's one of the loaded questions people ask. And, the overall goal for We Are Hope is to be in all 50 states. Yeah. Right. We know that consistency and support can support our children. Right. And we know that nobody does it the way that we do. Right. There's still not a model out there that does exactly what we do. Nobody can manage it.
And so for a parent that's listening that might have kids that are dealing with anxiety, how can they reach directly out to We Are Hope, or do they have to go through the school in order to get to
No, so they can reach directly out to We Are Hope.
Okay.
If we're not in the school that they're reaching out to, we can start with supporting virtually.
Okay.
But I would encourage parents, right? Because a lot of people, I travel all over, right? And a lot of people are like, I didn't even know you existed. I was talking to somebody in Rutland the other day. We've been in Vermont since 2018 or 2017, really, right?
Right.
In Vermont and New Hampshire. And I hear all the time, we had no idea. I was like, we were on CNN. We got the Champions for Change Award.
Right.
Right. Like I get not everybody watches CNN, but you know what I mean? Champions for Change, people might watch, right? So there's been a lot of news coverage about our organization. And I still think that there's a little bit of stigma, right around saying mental health. So sometimes you'll hear me shift my language to mental well-being, right? To ease people into it. But if people wanted to reach out, they can reach out to We Are Hope, and we're happy to support virtually. But what I would say to parents is, if you believe that your child is struggling in school, you best believe that they're not the only one. Mm-hmm. Right? If you think if your child has anxiety, or they're struggling with self-harm even, or some light suicidal ideation, or they're struggling with what you believe to be depression, or any of those things, your child's not the only one.
Right.
1 in 4 kids are struggling. So just do the math. Look in your child's class, count how many kids are there. 1 in 4 is struggling. And so what I would say is, go to your principals, go to your superintendents, and ask for real supports and services. They have clinicians that are in schools, they have guidance counselors, they have social workers, but the reality is none of those people are going to see your child 5 days a week for a half an hour every day. Right? I'm not taking anything away from counselors. I think that we need to continue to use them, but they're also overwhelmed. We know that.
Right.
We also know that the school psychiatrist is overwhelmed in most cases. We know that the school social worker and the therapist that's there. The therapist is there, has a caseload of maybe, half the school, hypothetically, right? And they're only going to see your kid maybe twice a month.
Right. Now, so for those that are hearing this, what's the age range?
So we start working with kids from second grade all the way through.
Okay.
And we do work with a first grader here and there and a kindergartner here and there. And we have to kind of change up our modality, and we're writing curriculum to be able to support. But, sometimes our younger kids don't have the capacity for the work that we're doing, right? We're talking about a half an hour session, right? Which really is about 15 to 20 minutes, said and done. You got to walk to class, pick the kiddo up, walk them back, right? So that's a couple minutes, there. But we, second grade is where we tend to start.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Sean. This has been fantastic, and we got to get you back on. I'm sure there will people have a lot more questions for you later.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me, Josh.
You're welcome.